I think many of you are too young to remember that in the first year that Tata Motors had bravely gone into the world of passenger car making, it was a big step for the company, a very proud company with a tremendous history, but it's a very big step to step into the world of passenger cars. And frankly, the first year was a disaster. We had a huge number of quality problems with the car. I can tell you now because these numbers are less relevant now, but the warranty implications, the warranty provisions for the first year of the Tata Indica were something like 38,000 rupees per car, at a time when the Maruti 800 had a warranty provision of 180 rupees per car. So we had a phenomenal task ahead of us in terms of, I had front suspension shock towers piling up in warranty repairs, all sorts of systems. So it was imperative that we get this quality issue fixed if the passenger car business for Tata Motors was going to have any future. But thankfully, I think the nice thing about Tata Motors is spirit. Tremendous courage, tremendous spirit with all of its people. You know, they had people like Sumantran to look up to. And so I started with a talent pool that was, you know, indefatigable. But when you get on this journey of quality, you know, you focus on the standard 3 elements. First and foremost, people. With the talent base that we already had at Tata Motors, we really had to bring in a lot of extra competence. In fact, I have no hesitation in admitting that we liberally raided the Maruti talent pool. I mean, they'd got so many people trained with the Japanese quality experience. So right from Shinohara-san, who I brought in as a consultant, the joint managing director at Maruti Suzuki, very unusual for a Japanese managing director to quit and come to work for a competitor. But I could persuade Dr. Shinohara-san to come in and do that. And right from him and Ibala and, you know, a whole number of people we have brought in to augment, because you can't start this quality journey without people. And then, of course, you had to have processes. ERC had grown up into what was an engineering factory, and it would just turn out things. And we had to bring in systems and processes, bring in new product development systems, templates, create a program office, create program managers, empower program managers as mini CEOs. In fact, I used to call these program managers mini CEOs. And again, I was borrowing from the playbook of Toyota, you know, the heavyweight program manager concept that Toyota had. And I'm very happy to say so many of those, Petkar and Saragopan Krishnan and Girish Wagh, were all program managers who rose up with the responsibility and the experience. So it was a phenomenal ability to bring systems into what was organically coming out as products. And of course, technology. I think by 2003, Tata Motors was probably the first Asian company, even including South Korea and Japan, the first Asian company that could tie up its digital backbone all the way from R&D to customer service and warranty. So we had upgraded PLM with Team Center, we upgraded our SAP, we brought in Siebel CRM, and we brought in GE Fanuc for our manufacturing engineering systems. No Asian company had brought in such a level of digital connectivity all the way through the process chain. So the quality journey was all about bringing the right people, scaling it up, bringing the processes, bringing in the tools. And very happy to say that in a short period of time, this began to generate results. This is actually a slide I've taken out of my archives. This is the slide I'd used in 2002 to kick off this entire, you know, what I call the 6-point program. And you could see the first topic was quality. And if we didn't get the quality right, we were not going to get this journey right. And happy to say, the Indica V2 came out, and then, you know, there was no looking back. So the V2, with the quality improvements, really salvaged a bold experiment of Tata's to get into the passenger car business. By 2005, literally 4 years after that, we had a track record where, frankly, we were one of the few domestic companies anywhere in the world to take on a company as aggressive as Hyundai and overtake Hyundai. So we overtook Hyundai in those years, took market share away from them with the success of the Tata Indica, and so on. So if this anything that happened, it was the investment that we made in quality. And when you do things right, it shows up in the numbers. So the 4 years, whether you measured it by the market share, revenue, PBT, the year before I joined Tata Motors, we had the biggest corporate loss in Indian history. Tata Motors lost 500 crores. In those days, that was a huge number. Within 4 years, it was completely wiped out, and all of the financial numbers started to look well. So the takeaway for me at this stage was, look, if somebody had told me when I started the journey that Tata Motors in a new business, starting off in passenger cars, could take on and overtake Hyundai in market share, I would have been skeptical. But with the right kind of effort and with the right emphasis on quality, I think that journey was successful. Frankly, with that period of time, Tata Motors was quickly adjudged Company of the Year. So it was a very quick turnaround as a result of all the work that had been done. In a second phase of my career, it was with Ashok Leyland, where I was the vice chairman of the company. And at this stage, the experience in Ashok Leyland was different, but equally rewarding. This was a stage when the company really was looking at expanding into a lot of domains. So we went into construction equipment. We went into, for the first time, into light commercial vehicles, which I will come to later. We went into IT and engineering services, telematics, electronics. In fact, I founded Alban-Air. I'm very happy to see that Alban-Air is one of the sponsors of this event as well. So there was a lot of diversification into a lot of new areas. And there was a lot of product renovation. A lot of the products that came out at this time really continue to serve the company very well right now. They were very futuristic at that time. I'm now talking about 15 years ago. And this was also the time that the company and the board was debating whether Ashok Leyland should get into the business of light commercial vehicles. There was a lot of reason why the board felt we should not. You know, the most profitable companies in the world, the commercial vehicle companies in the world at this time, were companies like Scania, like Packard. They had the highest operating margins, the higher EBITDA margins. And the common theme was they did not get into light commercial vehicles. They were medium and heavy, profitable, big trucks. So there's a big question mark in the board to saying, should we go into light commercial vehicles at all? But finally, for whatever reason, we as a board decided that yes, no, it makes sense to go into the light commercial vehicle business. And fortunately, we did this in a joint venture with Nissan, and that's what led to the Dost. Now, the joint venture with Nissan had two kind of unusual characteristics. Those of us in industry who have either been a part of or led joint ventures, you very quickly realize that every joint venture at the end of the day is a tussle between the two promoters or the two principals. It's all a matter of who wants to control. There is an eagerness to say, I will control this at the expense of your fellow partner. This JV was very unusual. It had two hugely beneficial traits. The first was right from the top at Carlos Ghosn, yes, the same Carlos Ghosn who escaped from Japan many, many years later. But in 2008, 2009, he was probably the most powerful automotive CEO in the world. And he was totally committed to India and Nissan coming to India and learning to work in India and learning to work how to be competitive in what was a very competitive Indian market. So we had support all the way from Carlos Ghosn personally. And the second was, this joint venture was unique because the two promoting partners were not about, I want to control this. It was almost, in fact, Carlos Ghosn many times would tell me, why don't you take it and run it the way an Indian company should be run? You guys know how to run an Indian company. You guys have cost efficiencies built in. You know design to cost. So we want you to take the responsibility. And I remember telling him, that's fine, we can take it up, but we need your Japanese quality. We need your Japanese productivity. So rather than a JV fighting to say, I want to control this, this was a JV which says, you take it. You take this and you provide the best contribution. So we had the best confluence of cost innovation, design to cost principles that we in India are so good at, blended with the phenomenal experience that Nissan was able to bring on quality and productivity and so on. And frankly, this is the only reason why the Dost ended up being a successful product. And I'm very happy to say people tell me today who are in the company that the Dost has one of the lowest warranty costs of any LCV in the market. And I think it's because of the learnings that we were able to build and the very constructive synergy between two very talented and capable companies. The nice thing about, there was a small excursion for this journey. Carlos Ghosn became so impressed with how this marriage of design to cost and quality could be made in India. He then came to me and said, can we do a passenger car together, Ashok Leyland and Nissan? And I told him that Ashok Leyland was not really suited to making cars, but I said, we could design it for you. And so Defiance, the company that I mentioned earlier, engineering and service company, they were contracted to design and develop the platform that was called I2, that became the CMF-A platform for the global Renault-Nissan alliance. And the first product that came out of that platform was the Renault Kwid. So the Kwid and all of its descendants, so whether you're driving a Kwid or a Triber or a Kiger or a Nissan Magnite, you'd all be very proud to know that that platform was designed, developed here in Chennai by Indian engineers. And it is the only platform in the Renault-Nissan alliance that was designed anywhere other than Paris or Tokyo. This was the amount of confidence. In fact, you can read the words that Carlos Ghosn says. In my opinion, outside India, you cannot make a car like this. That's high praise from what was, at that time, probably the most powerful CEO in the automotive industry. Ashok Leyland's journey in quality has, through the years, controlled. I'm back on the board of Ashok Leyland, and I see the developments going on there. And whether it is quality systems oriented towards customer centricity, electronics coming in, focus on our unplanned visits to shops have dramatically dropped because of all of the efforts that have been going into quality. Similarly, bringing in this quality culture that people were talking about earlier, and measuring it, controlling it quarter by quarter, and having, right from the CEO and the board, adequate focus on this is what's been really, delivering again. So at the end of the day, all of this has to be measured by, does this deliver results in financial terms? And very happy to say, at the time, I remember in the early 2015, 16, Ashok Leyland's market share in the medium heavy commercial vehicles was about 23%. Now it's well past 30%. And so the message is the emphasis on quality does pay dividends and shows up in the financials of the company. The last three experiences that I will talk about would be that in a sense, all these years, for 30 years of my career, I'd succeeded in fooling people I was masquerading as an automobile engineer when I really was an aerospace engineer. So thankfully, I had an opportunity in the 2020 to join the board of Indigo and then become the chairman of the company. And so it was, in a way, justifying my mother's investment in my career in education in aerospace. With Indigo, I mean, the one thing you can think about when you think about Indigo is our emphasis, our obsession with on-time performance. And on-time performance is nothing but another reflection of quality and reliability. I need punctuality. For all of you who are so busy today, traveling and going through different meetings, the most important thing for you is making sure that you have predictability. Predictability in when the flight will take off and when it will land. And this leads to a lot of the related dimensions of how there is a predictable quality of service, a predictability of the expectations that customers can have. And this is really the underpinnings of Indigo as a company. And this is, again, made up of the same sets of ingredients: people, processes, and technology. If you've ever seen the apron area in the airport before you board the aircraft, you will find our people running like hell. They're busy because when an A321 shows up at the gate, they've got 32 minutes to disembark 232 passengers, clean the aircraft, prep the systems, reboard the passengers, and push back. And this comes from meticulous amount of detail, planning, and so no wonder our fellows are running all the time. But I'm very happy to say that this running is not at the expense of burning people out. So often, whenever I travel, I always make it a point to talk to people. And I ask the employees, how long have you been with Indigo? And I'm absolutely surprised. So many of them say, I've been with Indigo for 18 years, 17 years, 22 years. It's amazing how longevity is attained, even when people are so busy and so active in what they do. And this is what keeps us, we briefly had a bit of a problem in 2022 with all the winter disruptions, and our on-time performance actually dropped. And the way in which the staff of the company, the management, and even the board reacted to this drop really was the indicator that this cannot stay on forever. Very quickly, we came back to being at the top of the on-time performance. And so again, you do things right, and it starts to show up in the financials. The airline industry went through hell during the COVID period, but very quickly it sprang back, and it's been successive years have been very profitable. In fact, it's been profitable enough that last year, briefly, Indigo was the most valuable airline in the world, overtaking Delta Airlines, overtaking United, overtaking American, and even today, we're the second most valuable airline in the world. If somebody had told me even 10 years ago that an airline from India would be amongst the most valuable airlines in the world, ahead of such stalwarts as United or Delta or Lufthansa or Singapore Airlines, it would have been hard to believe. But it was possible, and it was possible with all the effort that people have undertaken. So now, looking ahead, I think a lot of the speakers today have talked about the challenges we face in India right now. It is a very turbulent time for India. We have a lot of challenges. We have a very difficult relationship with the new administration in the US. We have continued competitive challenges with a China that obviously looks for regional hegemony. And so we have a tremendous amount of challenge in terms of not just the economy and the domestic economy, but also geopolitics and being a part of the global economy. The sad thing is, India continues to suffer a very substantial trade deficit with 9 out of our top 10 trading partners. It's so ironic, it's so unfortunate that the one country with whom we have a trade surplus is the United States, and that's the country that's creating a problem for us. So the other 9 countries where we enjoy a trade deficit really cannot contribute to the problems that we have with the United States. So the net result is, we are facing a very tough time because of the overall level of globally how competitive we are. I used to be a member of the National Manufacturing Competitiveness Council in the 2005 to 2010 period. At that time, it was chaired by Dr. V. Krishnamurthy. We had all the stalwarts there, and we used to talk about the goal for the country to take manufacturing as a percentage of GDP from about 14% to about 25%, where it needed to be, to create 100 million new jobs every year. Sad to say, 20 years later, our manufacturing contribution to GDP still languishes at about 14 to 15%. And I think part of the problem is we've had a narrative that somehow India could make its future with the service economy, but frankly, an economy as large as India cannot bet on one sector to bail out its future, to bail out its overall economy. And we're going to have to do it. And so the message really is manufacturing really needs to step up and deliver for India in a much, much bigger way. So if I were to close, I will close with 3 messages. I think it was said that just as the Battle of Trafalgar was about to begin, Lord Nelson went up to the bridge and made the announcement, England expects that every man will do his duty. This is a time for us in India where every man and woman has to step up to help the country address a very, very difficult period. And this means for all of us engaged in this business, quality leading to the kind of manufacturing competitiveness that we seek, and with it, really pushing our exports to a much bigger way to address this fundamental mismatch we have between exports and imports. And equally, I would say, imports, as our Prime Minister tells us, support local products, support your local industries. There's so much we can do. I remember when South Korea used to talk about market share, Korean cars enjoyed 78 to 80% of market share in Korea. Japanese cars enjoy something like 70% market share in Japan. There is pride, there is, Trump can say whatever he wants about Japan to import American cars into Japan, but do you really think Japanese are going to buy American cars? So there is this role that we can play to contribute to our industry in terms of supporting our fellow brothers and sisters, being committed to what the goal of the country is. So India needs us, and we have to step up. The second message is, in my experience with the 3 cases I talked about, to me, quality is a core principle. They say that the human spine is probably one of the most important pieces of anatomy in the human body. Physically, you break a spine, you're practically paralyzed, perhaps dead. And even from a character point of view, they say, do you have a spine? Quality is the spine of products and manufacturing. And if we commit ourselves to delivering the kind of quality in our products and services, I think we will get the results that we want. And the last is, Dr. Swaminathan was asking me, is there a message we can say that we can do it? To me, it's a very easy question to answer. I've seen it. If somebody told me, a fledgling Tata Motors, can you take on and beat a Hyundai? Yes, we've done it. Can we get the most powerful automotive CEO in the world to say, you guys in India can do it with design to cost better than anywhere else in the world? We've got him to say that. And if anybody could have said, an Indian airline will be amongst the most valuable airlines in the world, ahead of all of these big-name American Airlines or Singapore Airlines. We've done it. So I have no lack of confidence to say, if we commit our efforts together, we can do it. Thank you.
It would definitely be an inspiring listening to you, sir. Right emphasis on quality is a need of an hour. We will definitely commit to contribute our best to the quality perspective in all aspirations. Thank you very much for being here and spending your valuable time for us. Thank you, the entire panel. Now, I request NIQR National President, Mr. S. Murali Shankar, to felicitate our chief guest, Dr. V. Sumantran. The applause from the audience.